Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is CJ. I want to welcome you guys back to episode 25 of the JBJ 65 gallon reef build. Now I did a poll on the channel and per you guys' request, you wanted a livestock update, so that's exactly what we're going to do in this video. But before we move forward, got to recap on the previous episode. Actually filmed it in the dark in the middle of a power outage and pretty much held my breath the entire time. This power outage ended up lasting around 7 hours and the tank was able to survive on battery powered air pumps. So for those who seen that episode that were wondering what exactly happened, this is pretty much it, guys. Tank's back running. I did have a couple of losses as far as corals, but livestock appears to have came out of it okay. So at this point, it's time to go ahead and dive into this update. The goal is to educate you guys on all the fish I have in the system, the reason I chose these fish, and hopefully if you're in this point, in your builds and you're thinking about stocking your tank, hopefully this will give you some tips and tricks or maybe some food for thought before you make your decision. Now, before we jump too far, gotta revisit the custom screen top on the JBJ. Now it's gonna be the Pisces EXO by ClearView Lids. Had this on the tank for, I would say, around 6 months, maybe a little longer at this point. Still rock solid, still looks great. Got a little salt creep from a little splashing from the gyres, but other than that, it's done its job. I have 0 casualties due to suicidal fish. No fish potato chips on the floor. So if you're thinking about adding Wrasses, Gobies, or anything that could potentially jump out of your tank, get you a lid. I know aesthetically it's not going to look the best. If you choose to do custom or if you choose to do one yourself with a screen top kit or whatever you choose, put some kind of protection on your tank because these fish will jump. Don't trust them. I don't care how long you've been in the hobby, how lucky you have been. All roads end to fish potato chips. So definitely protect your tank, protect your livestock, and put a lid on it. So the next thing I want to address is going to be proper planning for the stock list. Now for me in the JBJ, I had a pretty good idea of the fish that I was going to put in here, knowing that I wanted a Wrasse heavy tank, maybe some dwarf angels, some clowns, and a couple other fish that may or may not have happened, but for the most part, I knew that I was going to require a couple of things. First one being the substrate in the tank, which is why I have a sand bed in here. I knew that I was going to have fish that required sand. Some of the Wrasses that actually bury themselves in the sand at night, or when they get stressed out, they need that sand to dive into to relax, calm down, sleep through the night, and all that kind of stuff. I've seen people with bare bottom tanks with Wrasses that like to bury themselves, and they're kind of stuck in crevices of the tank or in the rock work. Can it work? I mean, they say it works, but I just don't think that's the best habitat for that kind of fish. So with that being said, just plan properly and try to think about what that fish is going to need ahead of time. Now the next thing is going to be the aquascape. That's something I don't think a lot of people really think about when they're planning their tank. A lot of people don't really have an idea of the exact fish they want. Some of them require those tight nooks and crannies, stacked wall kind of aquascapes. That benefits some fish. Some fish like swim throughs are being able to have room to actually go in and out and take advantage of that. So for me in my tank, I knew I wanted it to be Wrasse heavy and active. I didn't really plan on having fish that were going to hang around the water column like, the furry Wrasses that may kind of flutter around, or Bangeye cardinals, or, any of those kind of fish that just kind of set in one spot. I knew I didn't want that in my tank, so I wanted to build an aquascape that allowed the fish to kind of pop in and out of it, swim in, behind, through, and once I got the tank packed with corals, just really take advantage of all of those swim throughs and the flow and all that stuff in the tank. So that was another reason that I ended up scaping the JBJ the way I did. Arches, swim throughs, overhangs. I wanted to create all the habitats possible for these Wrasses, for the fish that I ended up putting in here. Let's go ahead and dive right into the stock list on the JBJ. First fish, starting off, is going to be with the flame angel. Now it's going to be one of my favorite fish in the hobby. I've literally had one of these guys in every single tank I've had and never had real issues with them eating corals. Now I'd say real issues with flame angels eating corals. Had a bunch of other dwarf angels, none of them ever worked out, so I'm not going to give any stamp of approval or recommendation on putting this in your tank. What I will say is have an exit plan if they get crazy to evict them. You guys know I'm the undisputed, undefeated fish catching champ. So if he did get crazy, he would get ejected from the JBJ. But for now, everything appears okay. I haven't noticed him really going after any coral specifically. He's just kind of going around pecking, doing this thing and looking good doing it. Also going to be one of my all-time favorite fish. You guys are going to hear this a lot during this video because I personally handpicked my entire stock list. Now, this is an awesome wrasse to have. Very active, very colorful, and more importantly, reef safe. At least in my eyes and my experience, never seen this guy actively hunting or, picking on fish or, just being a complete a-hole in the system. Awesome fish to have. So if you're thinking about getting one, I recommend putting yourself on the email list at Live Aquaria, because once these things come available, they don't last long. And I believe they're seasonal because around summertime, you're not going to get one of these things. So definitely recommend it. If you want it or you're on the fence about it, go ahead and pull the trigger. Now I got to admit to you guys, this Scarlet pinstripe wrasse was a repeat edition, meaning I had it in the 120 gallon, was a perfect fish, very shy, very timid, never really did anything crazy. But this one, completely different. Not only is this guy the boss of the tank, a complete a-hole as far as attacking fish and attacking everything in the system, he also is a predator. So I'm going to show you guys a little later in the video what I mean by being a predator. But so far, this may be one of my regrets as far as putting in the JBJ. But it is a beautiful fish. The pink coloration and the way it moves and swims and just the activity level of this fish is definitely one that I do enjoy watching. I just don't enjoy the tension it creates. Now the third wrasse I'm going to share with you all, it's going to be a Christmas wrasse. Now this one's not really special. You can find these locally at your LFS. For me, I ended up adding this guy early on, not knowing what I was going to be able to find later, and he just ended up just kind of staying in the tank. So, a model citizen, always active, always on the hunt. And as they mature, the coloration on them really gets pretty. So recommend these if you're looking for a reef safe wrasse. Christmas wrasse will fit the bill. So as we move on to wrasse number 4, this one also was a special order that I had in the last tank of my 120 gallon. It's going to be the green Coris wrasse. Now, this is one of 2 of the Coris wrasses that I have in the system. Both are very active fish. They do a great job as far as searching for pests or looking for anything that may not, need to be in the system. These guys are going to hunt it down. Not only do these guys do it, honestly, all of the wrasses do it. So that's one of the main reasons that I actually have the wrasses in the system. All of these guys provide a service, and that is going to be pest control. So, not only do they look good, semi-risky as far as cleanup crews, but they do a great job of inspecting everything I put in the system. Anytime I've added SPS corals, put them on the frag rack, every wrasse comes and checks it out. They're always looking through the crevices, looking everywhere, hunting down stuff that shouldn't be in here. So, between these 2 wrasses, I think they definitely complement each other. Very similar fish. So if you're going to add them, I would say add them at the same time. I added all of these wrasses at the same time, all 5 of them. So, it really helped limit the aggression, but it also, is one of those situations to where you just got to get lucky. You could add all these wrasses and have, all hell break loose in your system. For me, it's only 1 wrasse that's causing issues. Everyone else is getting along pretty good. Now, when it comes to tank maintenance, I also picked up a Lawnmower Blenny. I purposely got a small one because I didn't want him to outgrow the food supply, hoping to keep him in here long term. As algae grows, he's going to grow, and he's had a fat belly for the last few months. Now, when it comes to the sand bed, diamond gobies always work hard, but I've never had success keeping them long term. Even this guy, shows a little bit of a sunken belly, but he's eating, he's eating fish food, he's sipping the sand, he's active, he's also getting chased and stressed out. He's also jumped out of the system into the rear chamber, had to get fished out. This guy's life has been traumatic to say the least. So not really sure if these guys are meant to be in our aquariums, and this may be one of the last times I actually add one of these to my reef tank. So, FYI, great workers, but don't live that long. So the next fish we're going to talk about is going to be the Wyoming white clownfish. Now I purchased these guys as a bonded pair, so the hard work was already done. You know, it's already a clear defined female, a clear defined male. They hang together and they've been together since day one. They've been in the JBJ. And on top of that, they're also being hosted by the Anemone. So I'm 2 for 2. I had a pair of these in the 120 gallon, had a pair of these in the JBJ that didn't make it, and this is the third pair that I've had in here for months, and these guys are doing awesome. And believe it or not, no one picks on the clownfish. These guys are very, you know, kind of territorial, but not too much. They let people swim by their anemone, but I think once these guys start breeding, they're pretty much gonna cut off one half of the tank. But you know, that's the goal, is to see if I can actually get clownfish to breed. Hopefully these are the ones that'll do it for me. So if you're looking for that nice white color fish in your system, tons of designer clowns out there, but for me, Wyoming white clownfish are probably going to be my favorite ones to pick up. So last but not least, you know, usually save the best for last. We're going to talk a little bit about the blue spot jawfish, also known as OG lockjaw. Named by one of my Instagram followers. I love the name. I think it's suiting because this guy does what he wants. Now, this is a very expensive fish. This is labeled as an expert level fish on Aquaria, which means there's no 14-day guarantee. They shipped this guy in like 2 gallons of water. So, I mean, he pretty much came in a bag that was quadruple the size of the other fish that arrived. So he arrived in great shape. He eats everything. You know, he's eating pellets, he's eating frozen, you know, and he's just kind of doing his thing. Now, one thing I will tell you, I normally try to prepare my, you know, habitats for my fish. This jawfish was one that I really didn't plan on having. This was kind of a, you know, let's try it. Let's see if I can actually have a jawfish. And he's rewarded me with some interesting behaviors. Most of the time you see jawfish on videos, these guys are just hanging out in the barrel, you know, not really doing much. You only see the tips of their heads and then they're hiding. Not this dude. This dude is all over the tank. You know, I don't know if he's confused or if he's just, you know, a special jawfish, but this dude swims all over the tank and he hangs by the clam and he does not care or want to dig a burrow anywhere. So very interesting. I'm enjoying the personality of this guy. You know, he definitely interacts with you. Fearless, doesn't run from anything, and absolutely no one tries OG lockjaw. So if you guys are interested in the jawfish, drop me a comment. I think this guy actually deserves his own video in a future date, but for now, I'll give you guys a quick introduction. Definitely a fish I highly recommend. Tons of personality, definitely worth the money. So that's pretty much going to cover all the fish in the JBJ. Let me give you guys a quick look at some of the inverts that I have in here, because I am a big believer of, you know, building my cleanup crew from the bottom up. You know, copepods, snails, hermit crabs, shrimp, all of those guys do a great job of reaching their little arms inside the cracks and crevices and getting those hard to reach food and pellets or whatever else that may have gotten stuck in there that the fish can't get to. So not only that, these guys are providing a service, actually cleaning the fish, which, you know, get cleaned pretty often, and they're giving a food source to the JBJ because of the spawning. I've probably had 5 or 6 different spawning events in here so far this year. Complete craziness. I've never had that many shrimp babies happening in my system, so makes me feel like the tank is starting to get balanced, or at least healthy enough and sustainable enough to have these guys wanting to keep breeding and, you know, spitting all these little shrimp in my tank at night. So pretty interesting stuff. But some of you guys may have wondered, hey CJ, how are you getting away with these shrimp and the wrasses in the system? Well, I was getting away with it for a pretty long time until this happened. Not sure the cause, but if I was to blame any of the fish that started this, I would probably blame the pin-striped Scarlet Wrasse, because he was one of the most aggressive fish towards the shrimp. But if you want to try to push your luck, I would say just add the shrimp to your system first before you add the wrasses. Let the shrimp get established, so when you put the wrasses in there, you're not just dropping a tasty shrimp in looking like a food source. But one thing I've noticed, they went after the fire shrimp in the tank. I had 2 huge fire shrimp in here that were fine for months. All of a sudden, one ended up getting killed and then the other got killed. So not really sure if they got murdered or maybe, you know, a higher magnesium level in my tank killed them out. But it seems like the fish went after those 2 shrimp and left the cleaner shrimp alone. So maybe there's some kind of truth between, you know, the fish knowing which shrimp can do something for them versus which shrimp can be food. But everyone pretty much got in on the shrimp buffet. It was, you know, it was open season, an expensive snack to say the least. I'm still unsure if I want to add more of those fire shrimp to the system later down the road. But the last invite I want to share with you guys is probably going to be one that is one of the most creepiest things that you can ever see in the hobby. I don't know about you guys, but these Sally Lightfoot crabs look like little tarantulas. This thing has multiple times. It's like 3 times the size was when I first got it. And honestly, I don't want to touch this thing. I'm just glad it's in the system, you know, helping out. If it ends up being an issue later, I don't know how I'm going to get it out of here. So that's pretty much going to cover the entire stock list for the JBJ and hopefully answer some of the questions for you guys as far as, you know, the type of fish I have and the reasons I selected those fish. Now, another thing I want to mention is going to be trying to prepare for the max size of the fish that I'm having in here. That's one of the main reasons I've been very hesitant to add a tang or any fish that's really going to potentially outgrow the JBJ, because to be honest, I'm not going to fall into the trap of saying, oh, I'm going to upgrade next year. Or, you know, when the fish gets big, I'm going to take it out and trade it in. 9 times out of 10, that usually does not happen, or, you know, does not happen in a timely manner that you want it to. So for me, I put fish in here that I feel like can actually grow in the JBJ. I added every one as smaller juveniles. You know, I made sure I didn't pick up any fish that was already 4 or 5 inches. I want to let all these fish actually grow together, and hopefully, you know, everything works out. So total, we have 11 fish in here. We have 5 wrasses, 2 clownfish, the flame angel, the jawfish. We have the 2 maintenance fish. And so far, I mean, to be honest, I think it looks great. The tank is definitely heavily stocked, but part of the reason I have it heavily stocked is because I plan on heavily packing the tank in with coral. You know, later down the line, when it comes to nutrients and, you know, actually not having enough nutrients once coral start growing, the plan was to have the fish kind of supply that, you know, need later. So who knows? It may work out, it may not, but for me, I'm completely done adding fish. I was able to play Russian roulette, you know, not quarantining, literally mixing and matching fish locally. I actually put in 5 fish at once from Live Aquaria, and I was able to come through and not lose anything. So I felt like if I could make it through the first couple of weeks, that usually is when you would get the first signs of some major issues as far as something that's going to kill all your tank, you know, kill all your fish off. But after that time, I felt like I was going to be okay. I think one of the main reasons that I was able to do this was probably going to be the UV Sterlizer. I don't know a lot about them. It's my first time using one, but it just seems like the lack of deaths, you know, the lack of quarantining and the success I had was attributed to something. You know, either I was very lucky as far as the fish they sent me, or maybe, just maybe, that UV Sterlizer did a good job of preventing some, you know, bacteria or diseases from reproducing, or, you know, keeping things at a sustainable level to where the tank is actually, you know, fairly healthy. All the fish are doing great. All the fish are eating. No one's flashing. No one, you know, has issues that I can notice. So far, so good. So at this point, I think we are fully updated on the stock list and, you know, everything else on the JBJ. And to be honest, I really feel like the tank is starting to kind of hit its stride. We had that small hiccup with the power outage, but at this point, I think the tank is, you know, ready to be more hands off now than ever before. Meaning, you know, my calcium reactor is going to be dialed in for it. You know, I'm getting a feeding schedule. I'm actually going to add an auto feeder for the fish. I don't plan on adding any more fish at all unless I have some crazy casualties happen. But, you know, this is one of those situations to where the tank is finally ready to roll into year 2, which is coming up, and just ready to just kind of be stable and hopefully start growing coral. So future plans is going to be leaving the stock list where it is and hopefully securing another frag package here in the near future and finishing out the rest of the aquascape and filling in the corals and the JBJ. So Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I'm not going to drag it on anymore. If you got any questions or comments, you guys know what you can do down below. So as always, hey, you guys like, comment, subscribe. You guys keep doing what y'all do. Y'all be easy and happy reefing. Peace.